Hi, this is Keeper, and welcome back to On Air. This month, February, is Black History Month, and the entire direct selling industry is doing a big celebration of Black history as we look at the legacy of blacks in direct selling, a major legacy of achievement, of success, so many stories, so many entrepreneurs who have created success in direct selling. This week, we're going to talk about the marketing do's and don'ts for companies that are looking to attract Black distributors to their company. There are some things you should be doing and some things you should definitely stay away from. To that end, we have from Houston, Texas, calling in one of the premier health and wellness coaches in the entire Houston area, Rhonda Dallas. She is also the founder of the nonprofit organization R2EWD, which stands for Reaching to Empower Women Daily, a nonprofit organization that helps women answer the question, where do I go from here with my life? Today, Rhonda is going to be talking about the marketing do's and don'ts. It's a subject she knows very, very, very well when it comes to the Black community. So sit back and relax as Direct Selling Live and MLM Black Woman, along with Direct Selling, celebrate Black History Month. Blacks in direct selling, a legacy we can all be proud of. Coming up, Rhonda Dallas.
My mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for Black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome to On Air with Direct Selling Live and MLM Black Women during Black History Month here in Direct Selling. We are honored to have Rhonda Dallas, one of the premier lifestyle coaches around the country, one of the top consultants. She's going to talk about the do's and don'ts for marketing in the Black community. Rhonda, how are you?
I am doing fabulous. How are you today?
I am doing fabulous. I know we were just talking about offline what a great Super Bowl we had yesterday. It was really an exciting game.
It was awesome to see the energy. It was awesome to see New Orleans come back after going through so many challenges. And it was just a good, clean game. Even though the power went out, it was still exciting to see for Black History Month so many Afro-American people being selected to be top focal points of the Super Bowl.
Not just we're talking about African Americans, but we're talking about women.
Yeah.
You know, we are talking about from Alicia Keys to Jennifer Hudson to, of course, Beyonce, and then her all-girl band and her all-girl troupe. I mean, they just turned the whole thing out, which is actually a great segue to what we're going to be talking about, because when we're talking about marketing do's and don'ts, Black women, when it comes to purchasing power and purchasing decisions, are the dominant gender when it comes to all of that. So to see them on stage in the way that they were, and like you had mentioned, New Orleans, and you know how that, you know, post Katrina and all of that, it was exciting. It really, really was exciting from a racial standpoint for the Black community.
It was exciting, and also made me feel very proud to be a Black woman.
Yeah.
In 2013.
I know that's right. Boy, because it was fantastic. You know, it was female dominated. It just really put out there what the real power base is in terms of the black community. It is women. It goes back to family. It goes back to grandmothers. It goes back to mothers. It goes back to sisters, to aunts. It goes to all of that. And it's when you're talking about legacy and you're talking about history, certainly in direct selling, we're talking about an industry that has upwards of 85% women. And when you're talking about direct selling and you're talking about blacks in direct selling, you're talking about those numbers as well. Anywhere from 80 to 85% of blacks that are in direct selling from a gender standpoint are black women. So it just goes on and on and on.
Yes, it does. And to add to that statement that you just made, it also shows that we are so versatile in our direct selling, in our marketing strategies, and in perseverance, which has always been a part of our culture as women, to take it to the next level in spite of all of our challenges that we have passed and ones that we have that are unforeseen.
Yeah. Past and unforeseen. It's interesting that you would say that, because, and I'm just going to kind of go in a different direction just based on what you said. Recently, when we were watching Obama run for president, we had some comments about food stamp president. We had some comments about, well, he represents a constituency where they want a handout. He's just giving them gifts and things of that nature. To hear that, and to also hear on top of it that the majority of the race, talking about black people, are single mothers, it's got to be, certainly for me, it is off-putting, but it has to be even more off-putting for a black woman to hear comments like that.
That comment and comments that we continuously hear, but it's specifically pertaining to the comment that was made on live, quote, unedited microphones that a particular person was not aware was being taped. But what it does for the black woman, it does two things. One, it assures us that we are no longer in that market, but yet so many people feel that we are still the great percentage of that market. If you statistically looked at numbers, we still are not number one when it comes to quote-unquote the word handouts or welfare or whatever you would like to call it.
Yes.
But also it gives us the drive and the energy and the strength to make sure that not only our generation that we're living in now, but the generations to come do not have to succumb to that level of attitude that is out there and the misnomer that all we do is look for handouts. So it gives me energy. It gives the black women energy to persevere and to keep going, and to know that obviously we are still in the headlines because so many people want to know how we get to where we are. And so it's a good thing sometimes to be talked about because it allows you to be able to see where the world really is, but we know for a fact that we're growing in marketing, and we have no problem with that.
I agree with you, especially with the point that it's good to be talked about. I happen to think from a marketing standpoint, as long as they're talking about you, good or bad, you're in a good spot, because you can always, from a good standpoint, yes, I love it. From a bad standpoint, it's an opportunity for you to come back and address whatever it is that was said, thereby putting you out there once again, and hopefully you're able to do it in a positive way. On the direct selling side of things, I've certainly, in my 17 years of direct selling, have certainly run up against some very interesting racial statements, very interesting racial comments as it relates to blacks not wanting to work hard, which is why some companies don't pursue blacks in terms of becoming a distributor. They will certainly pursue from a customer standpoint, but as you, to use your word, a misnomer that we don't work hard enough. In fact, having been on the board of an association at one point was told point blank the reason why we do not pursue blacks as heavily in direct selling is because they don't work hard enough, which I was completely taken aback by. At the same time, when asked what do you do about it, how do we go after the black community, I gave them the necessary steps that they needed to do, and so have others, but they don't take the steps. So it's really interesting. On the one hand, you'll say, we don't work hard enough, but when we're given the information on what you need to do to attract us into direct selling in much larger numbers, you're not always willing to take the steps, this being companies. What are your thoughts about that?
My thought is this. There is two sides to that coin. And unfortunately, the side that says, okay, here's your opportunity, here's your chance, here's, for instance, here is your suitcase with all the information you need to go out there and become an entrepreneur in direct selling. What are you going to do with it? And then sometimes we turn around and we're not so productive. But I see that there's a couple of factors and facets in our lives through history that has given us, quote unquote, a crutch per se as to why on one hand 50% of us are not as effective. And I see that part as, number one, being confident and comfortable in who you are and whose you are. And number two, I see us not having the knowledge and not having enough experience in that area. We have the drive. And then number three, something that I'm really seeing now is that we try to stray away from numbers. We try to get into things, but when it comes down to the number side, the math of the equation, we try to, sometimes some of us want to stray away from that. We're not comfortable all the time with adding up everything at the end of the day.
Why do you think that is? What is the disconnect there?
The disconnect comes from a couple of things. Number one, in order to do math, you've got to sit yourself down, you've got to concentrate, and you've got to be still enough to learn just basic math so that you can go on and futuristically do some of the formulas and some of the e-base, if you will, software that has allowed us now to just be able to drop in numbers. But we've never, ever been challenged as a race in math. We've always just been allowed to just kind of skate by historically in math. And I think now has come a time where some of that has caught up with us. And this generation now, we're doing some strides in math that we've never seen before. There's a couple of children that I know personally that are creating some formulas. And so the entrepreneurial and the direct selling and the go-get attitude is changing some of that. But I think through history, we were just never challenged to major in math and to know how much we need to know in the math area.
Well, I will agree with you to a point because we, over the past 20 or 30 years, from what I've seen, the challenge for higher education, for higher achievement, I would say we have definitely really begun to take advantage of the opportunity. And I think that's really what it boils down to, the opportunity to be able to stretch, to be challenged, to be given a path to success. Prior to, say, 30, 40 years ago, the opportunities weren't as much. And so, when you're looking at people like Dr. Benjamin Carson and people like this, these are extremely high achievers. And we're seeing such affluence being developed in the black community that cannot be achieved without a strong education foundation. And so, we're getting ready to end this segment, but one of the things that I want to close with are just a few statistics, just so people understand, because you know all of this stuff. When it comes to the black community, 10%, let me just get this, 10% of blacks are in the West, 18% are in the Midwest. In the Northeast, there's 18%, and in the Southwest and Southeast, there are 54% of the black community here in the United States resides in that part of the country. That part of the country, Southwest and Southeast, represent 28 million blacks in the United States alone. In 2008, our disposable income, or our income generated, was $803 billion. In 2012, we're talking about $1.1 trillion. That would represent, if we were a separate nation, the 17th largest nation in the world by economy. And you talk about an opportunity for direct selling companies to take advantage of. That's the 17th largest economy if we were an economy buyer or a nation unto ourselves. That's what it would be. When it comes to black women make 85% of all the purchasing decisions and 58% of all the car and trucks. And you know, when you're talking about numbers and purchasing power, which is really what this all boils down to, last year, 2012, we spent $31.5 billion on just cars and trucks alone. Those are staggering statistics. And so when we come back into our next segment, we're going to ask you to give us a roadmap for do's and don'ts, Rhonda, on marketing to the black community for direct selling companies when we come back.
Okay, I look forward to it.
The Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio. Host Deb Bixler brings you sales tips, lead generation systems, and best business practices that guarantee direct sales success. Whether you're looking for a little extra cash or a career change, the Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio will give you proven systems that will work in your home business. The Cash Flow Show, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on World Talk Radio Variety.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, cosmetics will never sell on party plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome back to On Air, an MLM Black Woman here on Black History Month. And direct selling is actually celebrating Black History Month, spearheaded by MLM Black Woman and Direct Selling Live. Just so people understand, I am the owner of MLM Black Woman. However, I'm not the one who started MLM Black Woman. In fact, Rhonda knows very well the person who started MLM Black Woman. Rhonda, who would that be?
That would be British Hill, formerly known in high school and grade school as British Ford.
Yes. Now, she'll go back and forth with British Hill, British Ford Hill. I guess it depends on how her and Shelby are getting along.
That's right. And whether she wants to drop the hyphen or not.
Yeah. Which means she's probably going to drop him this week in some way. Okay, partner, okay, my boy, you're going to have to drop down. I'm going to be just... Now, you've known British a long time. You were saying you've known British since the 5th grade, and British is just an absolutely beautiful woman, and just to be an absolutely beautiful black woman on top of it, that's just icing on the cake. But you've known her since the 5th grade.
That is correct. I've actually known her before that, but I actually can say that's when we shared classes together. British and I grew up in south side of Chicago, right off of South Shore Drive on the lakefront area of South Shore Drive. So at that time, that was considered an area of affluency. And we had the opportunity back in the day to dream big dreams of what we really wanted to do when we grew up.
Now you talk about big dreams and what you want to do. You weren't that far removed from another brother who's had big dreams and has accomplished those big dreams.
That is correct. I actually had the great opportunity to grow up in Hyde Park, and I actually had the opportunity to walk by, first of all, those that, without telling my age, I actually got a chance to interact and play with Muhammad Ali's children for quite some time, and then also Farrakhan's family, which lived right across the street. But before Farrakhan was there, it was more or less several other Muslim figures that took over that same area. But just recently, within the last 10 years, I've had the pleasure of being in walking distance from Barack Obama, as we called him back then.
Yeah.
But now he is our president.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
And I have to address him like that now as well.
You know, to be in the universe, I guess, of Louis Farrakhan and Barack Obama, that has to be absolutely something special, to be in that part of Chicago where so much dynamic energy really just festers and you're just constantly bubbling up. Must be an amazing experience, or must have been, because now you're in Houston, Texas.
It was an amazing experience, and it still is when I go back there, because Chicago is very, very segregated, unlike Houston, Texas, which is where I am residing right now. And so it took a lot to be in areas where it's primarily just one particular group of people. Now, Hyde Park, which is where I still reside when I go back and forth to Chicago, was the only neighborhood that was okay with, first of all, black-owned businesses for women, and number two, biracial marriages were more accepted in that area.
Really?
I got the opportunity to see how we migrated and also how we interacted with other cultures within our culture.
So if I were to move to Chicago, then that's where I would have to go, because my wife is white and
That is
Jewish.
correct.
So that's where I would have to
You got
live.
a double, yes. You got a double. Yes, that is correct. And unfortunately, it's still like that.
Yeah. Well, it's like that in a lot of places, which really is a great segue to when it comes to marketing do's and don'ts, because you, right there, you've got an integrated situation, but that's not always the case once you go outside. So you are just extremely knowledgeable in this area when it comes to the dynamics of the black community, which is so incredibly multifaceted. Because we're not a monolithic group, as most people tend, outside the black community, tend to think or kind of put us in. We are multidimensional, so many segments, so many layers. From a direct selling company standpoint, if you were we're going to put you in the chief marketing officer seat, okay, Rhonda, how would you go about marketing, not necessarily targeting, because I don't always like the word targeting. It just, from a black community standpoint, it doesn't always sit well with me. But from identifying, which is almost just as bad, but if you were going to market to the black community, what are the do's and what are the don'ts?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Being a licensed health and wellness coach, also, I am the CEO of several direct selling marketing companies that primarily deal with health and weight loss, and being just recently named as one of the entities for the Michelle Obama Let's Move obesity program. I can honestly say, just from some of my own faults, what I see and what I would like to share with the public, and also especially our females, because we have so many different dynamics, just emotional, that we go through Monday through Sunday, that we need even extra support with one another. But one of the do's that I would really, really love to share, and I'm very passionate about, is become an expert about the product that you are promoting, or the product that you are believe in. You should have passion when you speak about your product.
But if you're a direct selling company, okay, and we're looking at it from the company standpoint that wants to bring in more black distributors, what are the steps that the company needs to take in order to attract more black distributors?
Well, the company, one of the main things that the company needs to do is really get out there and do some sampling. And when I say sampling, really allow surveys and allow the product itself to see if the market at that particular time and if black women are interested in that particular product at that particular time, because we both know that a lot of it has to do with just timing.
Yeah. So from a timing standpoint, and aside from just the sampling, what else should a company look to do? And then what are the things that they really should stay away from doing?
Well, one of the things that the company should do is allow themselves to be versatile with the individuals that they are trying to promote and bring into their company. A lot of times we overdo policies and procedures, and companies do have to do policies and procedures, but sometimes there needs to be some room with direct selling to allow other people's ideas and take those ideas back to the CEO of that company that is trying to promote and recruit black women, and really see what dynamics are going to be needed for them to be successful.
Should a company look to set aside additional marketing resources to segment a particular group? It could be black, it could be Hispanic, Latino, it could be Asian, Pacific. Should they look to set aside dollars for those particular groups, or should they go about it in a general vanilla sort of way?
No, they absolutely need to set aside marketing dollars and marketing promotions and actually marketing personnel that happens to be that particular race. If it's a black product, if it's a black segment, if it's a black venture that you're trying to get off the ground, you should absolutely have black people on the board.
Yeah, even if it's not a black product, if you're going to target the black community or whatever that particular racial community is, from a material standpoint, you need to be able to have representation on the material so it looks like there's some inclusion that's already taken place. If you're going to hand out, say, material to the black community and all the material happens to have white people on in it, all over it, there's going to be a disconnect right away, because we're going to say, well, I don't see me, or even if it's not said, it's going to be unspoken, I don't belong in this picture. So
you're going to speak with action.
Yeah, or non-action in this case.
Yes.
What are some of the things that they absolutely should not do? One we just talked about, which is, you got to put us in the picture. But what are some of the things that they really should stay away from? Don't
assume that we're going to want to buy into your product on the first go around, on the honeymoon per se. Don't assume that we're going to be that naive to just think that we're going to buy into it immediately because of who you are. That is probably one of the biggest misnomers, and I think the other one that we just spoke about on a do part could actually be a don't either, is don't use false representation of the product to a particular audience.
Yeah. I also think don't, and this kind of goes to your first don't, which is don't assume that we're going to do something a particular way. We are a very educated, we're a very savvy marketing group. So just don't assume because you put a black face on a product or on a marketing material, we're automatically going to gravitate towards it. No, we're a little smarter than that. We certainly like the initial move, which is something you should always do if you're targeting a particular segment, be it black, Hispanic, whatever. If you miss that right up front, chances are you're going to fail in big numbers. But even in doing so, don't assume that we're just going to say, because you put a black face there or you've got a black person on stage, that we're going to say, yay, I'm coming. That's just not how it's going to be. We're very sophisticated brand shoppers. Anything else?
That is correct. And then also one of the big ones that I run into all the time in direct selling and companies coming to me personally with the product is, before you come to me, I think the company should do their homework And when I say do their homework, is that if you see my passion and drive is in one specialty or one area, or my niche is in one area, be prepared to bring me your product and tailor it to the audience that I can see myself promoting it to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I completely agree with you. As we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about you. Let's talk about some of the things that you're into. You are the founder of a couple of companies, and how do people get to know more about you? So this is your chance.
As we talked about it, the first part of our segment, I am from Chicago, Illinois. I hold 2 degrees, one in healthcare administration. I also hold a degree in social work and a minor in public administration. I am a licensed nutritional counselor and a licensed health and wellness coach here in Houston. And just recently, as I was saying before, and I'm so excited about, I was given the grant and the the thumbs up from Washington, D.C., under Michelle Obama to roll out the Let's Move project.
Outstanding.
People don't know what that is. It is about combating obesity in our children, especially our Afro-American children.
That's outstanding. That is so cool to know that you have gotten that, because you have to be someone who is of some stature and some credibility in order to even just be considered for such an honor. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How do people contact you if they want to know more about you?
2 different ways. One way, they can contact me through my website, which is www.rhondadallas.com. Or I still like the personal touch. My cell number is 832-922-0567.
Okay. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, or anything like that?
I am on Facebook.
Okay.
Sometimes my husband says I'm on there too much.
Uh-oh.
Told him that that's how I do networking. He doesn't quite understand Facebook yet. But that's another story and another thing.
I think you better drop that part of your name.
But I am on Facebook under Rhonda Dallas, and also under R2, the number 2, EWD, which stands for my Women's Foundation, which is Reaching to Empower Women Daily.
That's what I wanted you to talk about. So R2, how does it go?
R, the number 2, EWD, which is short acronym for Reaching to Empower Women Daily, is my nonprofit women's organization.
What is the thrust of it? What's the focus of it?
The thrust of it is working with mentoring the day-to-day woman that is at a crossroad in their life, either through their career, either through their family, or either through their finances, and mentoring them through what do they really want to do next with their lives. And part of that, the reason why I like that and the reason why I love coming on air here is because I promote entrepreneurship and direct selling as part of my spiel when I'm coaching and mentoring these women.
That's outstanding. That is outstanding. Rhonda, thank you so much for coming on air, especially this month, Black History Month. MLM Black Women and Direct Selling Live, we are probably the only major media in direct selling that's really doing something with Black History Month. So we are absolutely honored to have you come on and talk about some of the do's and don'ts when marketing to the Black community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and have a wonderful, wonderful Monday.
Thank you. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back to On Air. We want to thank Rhonda Dallas for calling in from Houston, Texas to talk to us today here on our celebration of Black History Month in direct selling. As I said, it's something that direct selling hasn't really done all that well when it comes to celebrating blacks in direct selling. There's such a long history going back as far as Madam C.J. Walker and just so many people. When talking about different segments of the population, racially or from a gender standpoint, there are certain things you need to be aware of, and certain things you need to do and not do. Of course, the more things you do well, the better off you will be, the more success you will have, and vice versa. The more things you do that aren't so well, you're going to just meet with failure left and right. It's important for a direct selling company to understand when you're marketing to the black community, there are things that you do, but there are also things that you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself. For instance, blacks here in America, we speak the language. We eat primarily the same foods. We go to the same places. We shop at the same stores. We go to the same ball games. You know, we have the same goals with our family as you have with your family. There are just so many things. We go to the same churches. Same social groups, same political organizations. We have very much in common, and yet oftentimes it seems as though direct selling companies stub their toe when it comes to marketing to us as if we're some foreign object. We're from another planet. Nothing could be further from the truth. Just like when someone is trying to market to the white community that's black, there are things we need to be aware of, things that we need to be conscious of, things that we need to be sensitive to if we're going to be a good job. That's just the nature of marketing in general. Any segment that you're going after, you need to know what makes them tick, what makes them happy, and definitely what makes them not so happy. If you're a car owner and you're trying to bring someone from GM over to Ford, you need to know what the Ford people like. That's a segment that you're trying to get to, so you need to switch some things up. It's no different here. When marketing to the black community, the one thing that I can definitely stress is we are not a monolithic group. We are very diverse in our thoughts, in our actions, in our thinking, and even in our color. We go from light to dark, and we are in different segments of the country. We're in different segments of the world. However, there's one thing that is very, very strong within the black community, and that is family. And it's also religion. It has a very, very strong history there. Primarily when you're talking about who really, in a lot of ways, is the stalwart, the person that really holds everything together. And that would be the woman, that would be the mother, that would be the daughter, that would be the grandmother in a lot of ways. So when marketing to the black community, as we talked about with Rhonda Dallas, 85% of all major purchases are made by women in the black household. That's not to say men aren't participating, but you need to understand that women have a major say in purchasing. We now have purchasing power of over $1 trillion annually. As we talked about earlier segment, if we were a separate nation, the black community here in the United States alone would be the 7th largest economy in the world. Last year alone, in 2012, we spent $31.5 billion on just cars and trucks. That's a lot of money, which means we spend money on toothpaste, deodorant, rice, baked goods, lawn and gardening equipment, sports, personal care, supplements, you name it, we spend money on it. And we are very, very brand conscious, and we are extremely brand loyal. So from a direct selling standpoint, if you are sensitive to the things that make us tick, primarily paying homage to women in the black community, you stand a chance of going a long way. Because if we like you, and we treat you with respect, and you treat us with respect, we can be incredibly loyal, sometimes to a fault. But that's a good thing if you're the brand that we're loyal to. Anyway, next week we have Shakira Ali. Shakira A. Ali. We're going to be talking about the legacy of direct sellers, of the black direct seller. That is the topic for next week. The legacy of blacks in direct selling, starting from as far back as Madam C.J. Walker, whose structure, whose business model is the model for direct selling. Have a great week. We'll see you next week here on Air and MLM Black Woman. Happy Black History Month.